creating the conditions for a much more effective cooperation with the different African entities and the UN in addressing some of the most complex crises that we face. But I would like to end by saying that our narrative about Africa must not be based on the crises that exist in Africa. There are crises everywhere. We have crises in Europe, crises in the Middle East, crises in Asia. There are crises everywhere. What is important is also to understand the enormous potential that Africa represents. That Africa is the continent that has grown more economically in the last decade, that has remarkable success stories, and that we need to also take profit of the momentum created by these facts in order to make sure that Africa is able to win the battle for sustainable and inclusive development in the next few years, knowing that that is also the best way to prevent the conflicts that unfortunately have created so much suffering in the continent. I am at your disposal for it.
On the U.S. travel ban, we heard what your spokesman said yesterday. It took 4 days for you to come up with a response to a policy that has caused so much chaos. Why did it take you so long? And are you calling on President Trump to lift those restrictions?
Well, first of all, it didn't take 4 days. I made several statements on that when I was in the African Union, but as you can imagine, you can find some pieces in different media. But what was lacking was the capacity to have a comprehensive approach to the problem. Because the transcription that was made of several of my interventions in relation to that when I was in Addis was necessarily truncated. And I thought it was important to come with something that represents the doctrine we have in relation to these issues, both in relation to the ban and also the very dramatic situations that refugees are facing when they have no chance to reach protection.
Are you calling on President Trump to lift the restrictions?
It is obvious that, in my opinion, this is not the way, and it was very clear in the statement, this is not the way to best protect the US or any other country in relation to the serious concerns that exist about possibilities of terrorist infiltration, but I don't think this is the effective way to do so, and I think that these measures should be removed sooner rather than later. That was the appeal I made.
Sherwin, South African News.
Secretary General, thank you. Welcome back. I think there's a broader concern regarding the United States administration, particularly President Donald Trump's articulation of this America First policy that in essence is placing the US administration at odds with the goals of your office and this multilateral institution that you head, whether on, as you mentioned, the resettlement of refugees, whether threats to withdraw from the climate change Paris Agreement or the funding of the United Nations. How are you strategizing to stand up for this organization in the face of this perceived or otherwise onslaught on the United Nations?
I think that it's all complicated things have an easy answer. And the answer is to be firm in assessing our principles and open in engaging in constructive dialogue. And that is this combination that I will try to make effective in the way we deal with the US administration or in the way we deal with any other administration in the world.
When do you expect to see that?
Thank you so much. Mr. Secretary General, I would like to ask you about Syria.
All right, that was the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. We're hearing a lot more of him after he's quite new in his own administration, but dealing a lot with the claims, the allegations made by the new US President Donald Trump. He's questioned the effectiveness of the UN. He's questioned whether the US should continue to contribute as much as it does to this global body. And then, of course, the UN recently asking for the US administration to lift the travel ban that Trump has put in place. But as you heard there, they have been criticized for dragging their feet on that matter. He said that he was actually talking very soon after that travel ban was put in place. All right, we come back to